Hello everybody and welcome to Learn Piano Now with Daniel Joyner. I hope you're looking forward to learning something new today because I am looking forward to teaching you. Make sure you stick around to the end of this video to hear the musical joke of the week. You're not going to want to miss this. Do you ever feel like you play the same chord progressions over and over again and would like to learn some new material? Well, if you watch today's video, some great chord progressions you will learn. Sorry, I think I had a frog in my throat there, or maybe, just maybe, that was my favorite Star Wars character coming out to introduce today's material, because today's lesson is on 14 chord progressions every musician should know. Now, if you don't know what a chord progression is, or if you're scratching your head, then you want to watch the video that I'm going to put up in your upper right-hand corner of your screen on how to play chord progressions. And if you don't know how to play chord progressions using the closest inversions possible, you also want to check out the other video, which is how to play chords smoothly. Now, why is it important for us to know these 14 chord progressions? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you. First, a lot of popular music uses them. So if you know them, you're going to understand a lot more of what you hear when you listen to popular music. 2, if you like to write your own music or improvise, these chord progressions provide really good material for you to improvise over or to write songs or instrumental pieces over. So let's do a mini review of what a chord progression is. So first, if we're operating in the key of C, we're using the C scale from C to C, all white notes. Now, to find chord progressions, we use diatonic triads, which are triads built on each step of the C scale. So this would be the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 chord, the 7 chord, and back to the 1. So those are our building blocks for our chord progressions. Now the first chord progression is 1 to 3. This is a very cinematic progression because it's used very often in film and commercial music. You have your 1 chord to start with the left hand basically doubling the root of the chord, and then you have your 3 chord. And the next step is for you to put the chords in the closest inversions possible in the right hand. So I'm going to start here with the root position C chord, then I'm going to stick my thumb down to B, and I'm on my 3 chord now in second inversion. So 1 in root position, 3 in second inversion, and then I'm going to double the root in the left hand. This is a really neat progression. Here's an example of something you might do with it in a cinematic style. Now, the next progression is where you add something to that, and you have 1, 3, 4, 5. Now you just tacked 2 chords to the end of your 1, 3 progression. So it sounds like this. 3, 4, which is F major, and 5, which is G major. Okay? Then we're going to put them in close inversions. So you would do 1, then you would move your thumb down for the 3 chord, and then you would move your whole hand position up to play second inversion F chord, the 4 chord, and then move up again to play the second inversion 5 chord. So you have 1, 3, 4, 5. Here's an example of what you might do with that in a cinematic style. Now the third chord progression is the 1-5-6-4 progression, which we've gone over many times in previous videos, but this one is a very pop-oriented progression. Okay, we have our 1-5-6-4, and we're going to take those and put them in the closest inversions. So our 1 chord is C, we're going to find our closest inversion of the G chord, which is in first inversion. Then we're going to hop up here to A minor in first inversion, C, E, and A. And then we're going to jump to the 4 chord in second inversion. So we have 1, 5, 6, 4. And you might do something very pop oriented with that. So now this next progression is a variation of the 1, 5, 6, 4 progression because you take the 3 chord and you substitute it for the 5 chord. So this is how it sounds. 1, 3, 6, 4. Now let's put that into the closest inversion format. 1 in root position, the 3 chord in second inversion, the 6 chord in first inversion, and then the 4 chord in second inversion. So now you might recognize it from this little pattern. Now our next progression in the sequence, number 5, is 1, 4, 6, 5. And that sounds like this. So let's put that in the close inversion format. Root position 1, second inversion 4, first inversion 6, and first inversion 5. So there's some fun things you can do with that little progression. The next chord progression is just a variation of that, where you take the first 2 chords in the progression and you flip them around to where this time it's 4, 1, 6, 5. So in this progression, we start with the 4 chord, we go to the 1, we go to the 6, and then we go to the 5. So let's put that in the closest inversions possible. So we start with the second inversion 4 chord, going to root position 1, first inversion 6, and then first inversion 5. So we have 4, 1, 6, 5. So that's a nice little progression. Now, the next few progressions start with the 6th chord. So they sound minor, if you will. So the first one is 6, 4, 1, 5. So we have the 6th chord first, then the 4, then the 1, then the 5. Now, if we were to put that in the closest inversion format, we would start with the 6th chord, and then jump the top note up to F to find our 4 chord in first inversion, then jump down to our 1 chord in second inversion, and then our 5 chord in root position. So we have, and of course you'll recognize that one from this little pattern. Has a nice little groove to it. Now, the next progression is 6, 3, 4, 2. I always like this progression because most of the chords are minor and it sounds a little bit more introspective and sad. So let's put that in the closest inversions possible. So 6, root position, 3 chord, you jump down to the first inversion. Now the 4 chord, you jump up to the first inversion, and then to the 2 chord, you change the middle note to get to the second inversion D minor. So again, 6, 3, 4, 2. And you might do something like this with this progression. Now the next one is an even shorter progression. This is just a walk down progression from 6 to 5 to 4. So we have 6, 5, and 4. So even though it's a very short progression, it's a very pretty one because you can do this with it. All right, our next progression is 6, 5, 3, 4. So that one sounds like this. 6, 5, 3, 4. Now let's put that into the closest inversions. 6, root position. 5, root position. 3 chord, you'd go to the first inversion, and then the 4 chord, you go to the first inversion. So that one you can make a nice little kind of techno dance pattern out of. All right, now the next progression takes us back a few decades. This is kind of a classic, and the next few are a little classic. So this is the 1, 6, 4, 5 progression, which is let's put that in the closest inversion format. So 1, 6 would go in first inversion, our 4 chord would go in second inversion, and our 5 chord would be in first inversion. So you probably have heard this progression in doo-wop and also in this style. And the example of doo-wop from the 1950s would be so that's a neat little progression for those styles of music. Now the next progression goes back to the jazz era. This is 1, 6, 2, 5. It's a variation of 1, 6, 4, 5. But this one sounds like this. Or 1, 6, 2, 5. Now let's put that into the closest inversion format. 1 in root position, 6 chord in first inversion, the 2 chord in root position, and the 5 chord in second inversion. So 1, 6, 2, 5. That's a very jazzy progression, and you might hear it played like this. Or maybe now the next chord progression goes to the heart of early rock and roll in America and Latin music. This is 1, 4, 5, 4. And if we put it into the close inversion format, it'll sound like this. Root position 1, second inversion 4, second inversion 5, and second inversion 4. So in early rock, it might sound something like this. And in Latin, it might sound a little different, but the same chord structures. the last progression is probably one of the most well-known progressions in Western music. This is the progression to canon in D. So I'm going to give this one to you. It's a rather lengthy one, but it's 1, 5, 6, 3, 4, 1, 4, 5. And we're going to walk through it. So the first chord is 1, 5, 6, 3, 4, 1, 4, 5. So if we were to put that in the close inversion format, that would look a little something like this. Root position 1, first inversion 5, first inversion 6, second inversion 3, second inversion 4, root position 1, second inversion 4 again, and then second inversion 5. So we have And of course, if you're a popular band like Maroon 5, you can write a hit song based on this chord progression and do it legally. But this is the progression for canon in D, and it would sound something like this. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video on all the chord progressions, and I hope you can use them in your own music and in your own improvisation and writing. And for those of you who watched all the way through this video, in anticipation of the musical joke of the day, I won't keep you in suspense any longer. So, why did the piano player bang the side of his head against the keys? Because he was trying to play by ear. Ha ha! All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to receive weekly piano lessons on interesting topics. And don't forget to check out the next video. Have a great day, and we will see you soon.